All right, lads, welcome back to another live build. I've got my other heroes lined up back here. They're ready to see the final hero built in live time here on YouTube, all with the rest of you guys. I got a little bit of rash on my wrist. I got to put some more ointment on. All right, so those are the 7 of the 8 heroes that come with Warhammer Quest Cursed City. We're going to build up the last one now, Octren Glimscry. Let's take a look at the instructions, shall we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. That head, this stupid piece, it's got all these long, thin bits to it, and I was building it, or I was clipping it out of the sprue, and it snapped right here. When I tried to pull the piece out of the sprue, one of these little tendrils caught the frame, and I wasn't even pulling that hard. I just tried to remove the piece and it snapped right off. So it's currently in the process of drying, and while it dries, I'm going to just move on with the rest of the build. Hopefully by the time we get the rest of the model built up, it will be ready to be added to the front of the model. So we're going to be starting with the left part of the body, the part that snaps into the there on the right arm, as well as the that part. Those 2 pegs are going to go into these 2 slots. So this is the easiest part that I was when I was dry fitting the model, I found came together really easily, and it's going to be the biggest one that has the biggest potential for having gappage, just because of the way there's so much connection. It has to be a straight line of connection down the robes, or if there's like even a little bit of a shift, it's going to dry, all the glue is going to dry, and your model is going to look terrible. So we want to make sure this has the strongest bond. So not only are we going to fill these 2 slots, we're also going to put just a little bit of a line going where the connection in the robes is going to be. So we're going to mainly look for the slots. And once the slots are matching, you can check the rest of it. That seems to be good. This is the biggest area where you're going to see whether or not you were successful. If there's a huge gap there, if it's not perfectly joined, then you're going to know that you weren't able to get a good fit. So we want to make sure that is sealed up nice and tight. It's kind of like a excuse me. It's kind of like weather stripping your windows or your doors. You want to make sure there's no seam for any air to get in. Make sure that is nice and sealed up. All right, now that that is built, it's interesting, I didn't notice this because you can't tell at all, but this figure, this miniature has like a breastplate. I mean, can you tell that he's wearing some kind of breastplate? I can't. But there it is. I don't know if it's like a leather doublet or an actual, I don't think wizards wear metal, but I just remember seeing the shape of that and thinking, oh, he's actually armed up. He's got like a bulletproof vest. All right, so the last part of this first step is going to be this sleeve. He's holding 2 books in the left hand, so we're just going to add a little dollop of glue right into that hole. And we're just going to pop it right in. Get this angle right. There we go. There is a little bit, yeah, there's a little bit of a seam on the back that I could have lined it up to, but that's okay. So while that is all sealed up, we're going to get ready to put this, the left side of his hood, along with his arm and a book over there. We're gonna just line that up over there. We're gonna glue it together. And this one's a little bit different because we're not going from the side, we're actually going from the front, and then we're gonna pop it in. And this is the seam you don't want. You have to find the angle to get it in there and seal it up. Because when I was a beginning hobbyist, those are the mistakes that I would make. I would have just a tiny little gap where some air could get in, and I would think, oh look, the front, it looks good from the front. It looks like it's slotted in, so I'm just gonna leave it, let it dry. And by the time it's dry, there's no way to fix it, and you're stuck with an ugly gap. The only way to fix that would be to use liquid green stuff. So we're gonna try to avoid that as much as possible by making sure these seams are as pressed in and tight as we can make it. Okay, before I go to the face and the staff and that arm, I'm gonna glue them to the base. Give that beard tip just a little bit more time to dry from when I ripped it off of the rest of his face. That's the worst thing when you're clipping parts out of a sprue and just like the little tip of some hair or a beard or anything gets clipped off by accident. I think this is the way the slot is in. Just realized I don't have my... There you go. Better late than never. Now I have no excuse. Okay, so I'm gonna take a look at the model before I go for the head. It looks like that seam is gonna be there no matter what. You can cover it with a little bit of plastic putty, like I said, liquid green stuff, or just try to paint over it as much as you can. It looks like that's gonna be there regardless. It's just the way the robes are sculpted now. I'm going to get the head. I'm going to show you what I mean. So here's the piece that got damaged when I took it out of the sprue. I'd clipped here, the head here, here on the staff, and at the bottom. And then when I pulled it out of the sprue, this little part caught an edge of the frame. And when I tried to yank it out, it just ripped like right over there. So it looks like it's okay now. The glue seems to have mended it a little bit. Yeah, there you can see the line right up the center where I messed it up. It's okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some glue on the back where the head and the hand are gonna go in the sleeve. And then we're gonna slowly, carefully, gently push the model, the bit into place, rather. That's the head, and here is the sleeve. And I'm going to avoid touching the part that I ripped off because I don't want to put any stress or pressure on it. Just gonna get his face on. I want to see his face on. Whew. Tricky getting the arm in because it's like such a small part right at the wrist. It's like a small little piece, very easy to get it damaged by not slotting it in the right way. But once you do, it's very simple. I love the way the sleeve is just sculpted over, how those folds just naturally fall over the arm. I'm just gonna push his head in a little bit. You don't want to do too much forceful pushing because you're not gonna be sure how strong that bond is. You push a little too hard and that whole back of the cloak could shift. You don't want that. All right, he's looking pretty good, guys. I'm gonna add my AK rough terrain texture. And at the end, he's gonna join the rest of the heroes over here. I'm gonna let them dry overnight, and then I'm gonna prime everything in a Mechanicus standard gray primer. If you don't have a gray primer, then I would go with a matte black. That also works. I don't want to prime anything with a shiny, like Abaddon black spray primer though, because a shiny black primer, you're not gonna be able to see where all the highlights have to go. It needs to be matte And I found that using a gray primer is really good for dark models. It allows you to see where all those raised edges and highlights are going to need to go. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to support my channel, I hope you consider becoming a patron. And I hope you enjoyed this entire series of videos where we built up in live, real time, the heroes from Warhammer Quest Cursed City. Stay tuned for many more videos from my channel. Hope you're having a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Latest, players!